Warm welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's 8 p.m. and this is a new edition of Panorama News. In the upcoming 45 minutes, we'll be bringing you the latest of the political, economic and sports news from all around the world. I'm Hani Saif. I'll be your host for tonight, and we'll start off with the political news, where President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi discussed with Russian President Vladimir Putin the latest developments in the region as well as ways of combating terrorism. This came during a phone call on Monday between the two presidents, where they also focused on means of boosting ceasefire in Syria. President al-Sisi praised the US and Russia's role in reaching the ceasefire agreement, adding that Egypt supports all efforts needed to settle the Syrian crisis. Al-Sisi and Putin also agreed that it is a must to combat terrorism in Libya and Yemen as well. Means of boosting bilateral relations and the resumption of the flights between the two countries were also tackled during the call. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi held a summit talk with Iraqi counterpart Fouad Massoum in his first official visit to Cairo that will take 3 days. Presidential spokesman Ala Yusuf said that President al-Sisi asserted during the talks Egypt stands towards supporting the Iraqi unity and its sovereignty on its lands, adding that Egypt is also keen to restore security and stability in the country. President al-Sisi also discussed with the Iraqi president means of boosting bilateral relations in various fields. For his part, the Iraqi president hailed Egypt's efforts to maintain stability in Iraq as well as its role to contain the crisis in the Middle East. Massoum also said and expressed his country's hope to activate the agreement signed with Egypt in a bid to promote means of cooperation between the two countries. The current developments on the region as well as issues of mutual concern were also tackled during the meeting. An extraordinary summit of the Organization of Islamic Conference, OIC, on Palestine and Al-Quds has wrapped up its activities on Monday in the Indonesian capital, Jakarta. Foreign Minister Sameh Shukri delivered Egypt's speech before the summit on behalf of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. The speech stressed on the Palestinians' right to regain their legitimate rights, on top of which establishing a Palestinian state on the 1967 borders with East Jerusalem as its capital. Egypt's speech also warned of the hazards of the Israel occupation practices. The summit sought to form a strategy for reviving the stalled peace process in the Middle East. On the sidelines of the summit, Shukri held talks with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas on the latest developments in the Palestinian-occupied territories and Israeli violations. Shukri also met with his Indonesian counterpart on the summit's final communique. The Parliament resumed on Monday discussions of its bylaws. In its sessions on Sunday, the Parliament approved a number of articles, including Article 384, on the penalties used to punish MPs who violate the House bylaws. Such penalties include depriving the MP of his membership. The Arab League announced on Monday that Egypt has officially nominated former Foreign Minister Ahmed Abul-Gheit to be the successor of Arab League Secretary General Nabil al-Arabi for the next 5 years. Al-Arabi has earlier announced that he is not seeking a second term after his current one ends in July. Arab League Deputy Secretary General Ahmed bin Hilli said that Abul-Gheit is the only one announced nomination for the post. Arab League foreign ministers will hold a meeting on Thursday to discuss the candidacy of Abul-Gheit. The Interior Ministry said that 2 police officers were killed and three conscripts were injured in a bomb attack in Sinai's El Arish. An Interior Ministry statement said on Monday that while a police patrol was passing through International Coastal Road, a bomb exploded at one of passing armored vehicles while checking the security status in a police station area in El Arish city. Tunisian Interior Ministry imposed on Monday a curfew in Ben Gourdan after a militant attack on army and police bases in the town left dozens of people dead. The fighting in the border town in eastern Tunisia comes amid increasing concern that violent extremism in Libya could destabilize the region. We have the details.
Interior Ministry imposed on Monday a curfew in Ben Gourdan after a militant attack on army and police bases in the town left dozens of people dead. Tunisian police and unidentified gunmen clashed near the Libyan border, killing at least 45 people amid increasing concern that violent extremism in Libya could destabilize the region. The Interior and Defense Ministries said in a joint statement that the dead included at least 28 attackers, 10 members of the security forces and 7 civilians. The statement said that the gunmen targeted a police station and military facilities at dawn in the border town of Bengardan in eastern Tunisia, adding that the authorities were hunting several attackers still at large. Authorities sealed off the nearby beach resort town of Jerba, a popular destination for foreign and local tourists, and closed 2 borders crossings with Libya. It was not immediately clear if the attackers crossed the border, but today's assault was the type of militant operation Tunisia's government had feared as it prepares for potential spillover from Libya, where Daesh terrorist militants have expanded their presence. While Tunisia has been held up as a model of democratic transition since its 2011 uprising against ruler Zain al-Abidine Ben Ali, the North African country is also caught up in a struggle with militants. Tunisian forces have been alert for possible infiltration since last month, when a U.S. airstrike targeted mostly Tunisian Daesh militants at a camp near the border in Libya's Sabratha. Western military advisors are starting to train Tunisian border forces to help better protect the frontier with electronic surveillance and drones, and authorities have built a trench and barrier to help stop militants' crossings.
Russia's defense ministry said on Monday that 8 ceasefire violations had been registered in Syria over the past 24 hours. It said there had been 2 violations in Hama province, 3 in Aleppo and 3 in Idlib. The number of militant groups which agreed to cease hostilities in Syria reached 35. Meanwhile, an official in YPG, the Syrian Kurdish militia, said on Monday that Turkey was firing artillery shells at its fighters in northern Aleppo province. The official said that Turkish shells hit the town of Tel Rifat, wounding a number of YPG members. The monitoring group Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said that Turkey shelled the group in the same area last month. Head of the main Syrian opposition coalition, Riyad Hijab, said that they agreed to attend a new round of UN-sponsored peace talks in Geneva, scheduled to resume Wednesday. The United Nations is hoping it can now restart talks on a political transition that collapsed last month in Geneva.
His opposition on Monday agreed to attend a new round of UN-sponsored peace talks set for this week in Geneva after a landmark ceasefire led to a dramatic drop in fighting. The truce between President Bashar al-Assad's regime and rebels, brokered by Russia and the United States, has defied expectations and led to the first significant decline in violence in Syria's nearly 5-year civil war. The United Nations is hoping it can now restart talks on a political transition that collapsed last month in Geneva. The opposition, represented by the Riyadh-based High Negotiations Committee, had held off on committing to the talks, but on Monday said the 10-day-old cessation of hostilities was making a difference. Spokesman for the opposition group, Riyad Nassan Agha, said that after consultations, the High Negotiations Committee agreed to go to Geneva. He added that they have noticed a sharp decline in ceasefire violations in recent days and progress in the humanitarian file, particularly with regards to aid deliveries to besieged towns. The ceasefire agreed on February 27th is part of the biggest diplomatic efforts yet to resolve Syria's conflict, which has killed more than 270,000 and forced millions of people from their homes. Observatory Chief Rami Abdurrahman said that the average number of civilian deaths a day had fallen by 90% since the ceasefire came into force, with an 80% decline among soldiers and rebel forces.
Turkey's state-run news agency says security forces have arrested 2 suspected Daesh militants and seized plastic explosives in a suicide vest. The agency said Monday that the 2 were apprehended at a border crossing when authorities noticed that they were trying to place a bag inside the back of a truck that had entered Turkey from Syria. The bag contained 10 slabs of plastic explosives, a suicide vest and detonator. There were no further information on the suspects. 3 separate suicide bomb attacks, which authorities have blamed on Daesh terrorists, have killed about 145 people in Turkey since July, including 12 German tourists who were killed in Istanbul's historic district on January 12th. And US Vice President Joe Biden kicked off a Middle East tour Monday, vowing that the United States and its allies would squeeze the heart and destroy Daesh terrorist group. Biden spoke before several hundred US airmen as drones rolled down the runway at the Dhafar Air Base, a major desert outpost near the United Arab Emirates capital, Abu Dhabi. Biden said that they have to squeeze the heart of Daesh terrorists in Iraq and Syria, so they can't continue to pump their poison in the region and around the world. The Emirates is the first stop on a regional tour that will also take him to Israel, the West Bank and Jordan. The White House said that the trip will include talks on U.S. economic and energy interests, as well as security concerns about Iran and Syria. Nigeria's former Chief of Defense Staff pleaded not guilty on Monday to charges of alleged fraud, criminal breach of trust, and money laundering involving about 3 billion naira. Air Marshal Alex Bade, who appeared at the Federal High Court in the capital Abuja, denied allegations that he used money allocated for Nigeria's Air Force to buy a mansion and a commercial plot of land and build a shopping mall. Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari took office last year after vowing to crack down on corruption, and Bade is the latest in a string of senior figures who served under the head of state's predecessor, Goodluck Jonathan, to face graft charges in court. The former defense chief was remanded in custody until his bail application hearing, which will take place on Thursday. A suicide bomber killed 17 people and injured 31 in northwest Pakistan on Monday in an attack which the Taliban described as revenge for the hanging of an assassin last week. The bomber, whom police said was aged around 20 and had up to 6 kilograms of explosives strapped to his chest, blew himself up inside the complex. As lawyers and legitimants were arriving at a court complex during the morning rush hour in the town of Shabakadar. The Pakistani Taliban's Jamaat al-Ahrar faction claimed responsibility for the attack, saying it avenged the hanging of Mumtaz Qadri, who gunned down the Liberal governor of Punjab in 2011 over a call to reform the country's blasphemy law. The Russian Foreign Ministry on Monday condemned as totally unacceptable North Korea's threats to launch preemptive nuclear strikes against South Korea and the United States, and appealed to all sides to show restraint. North Korea's threat for indiscriminate strikes came just hours before South Korea and the US began annual large-scale military drills, which usually provoke a response from Pyongyang. The ministry said in a statement that Pyongyang must realize that in doing so, North Korea is definitely turning its back on the international community and creating a legal basis for the use of military force against it. It added that Russia urged all sides to exercise caution and restraint to prevent the tensions from escalating into an armed conflict. Turkey ratcheted up its demands for helping the EU with the migrant crisis at a high-stakes summit in Brussels on Monday, demanding an extra 3 billion euros in aid to return for its cooperation. And Bosnia Foreign Minister said that they are ready to act in case migrants change course, reflecting wider concerns about EU moves to close the current route through other Balkan states. Turkey offered the European Union greater help on Monday to stem a flood of migrants into Europe, but demanded more money, faster accession talks, and quicker visa-free travel for its citizens in exchange, leading EU leaders to extend their meeting into the evening. European Parliament head Martin Schulz said that Turkey is seeking an extra 3 billion euros in aid under a deal with the EU to curb the flow of migrants to the continent. Turkish Prime Minister Ahmet Davutoglu said that Ankara was willing to take back all non-Syrian migrants denied asylum in Europe, as well as all those intercepted in its territorial waters, and to crack down harder on people smugglers. European Union leaders pressed Turkey to take back thousands of migrants and prevent others from setting off for Europe, as thousands of desperate people sat stranded in Greece. Meanwhile, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, in a speech in Ankara, criticized the European Union for a 4-month delay in disbursing a promised €3 billion fund for refugees agreed under the November deal. Meanwhile, Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orbán said that Europe should shut its borders to migrants and not let anyone in without registration and permission. Orbán said that Hungary wouldn't participate in any resettlement plan. He also said that Ukrainians should be given EU visas exemptions before any similar deal with Turkey. Bosnia's Foreign Minister Igor Kranadak said that an entirely new route could open for migrants trying to reach European Union member Croatia through Albania, Montenegro and Bosnia.